Hello, this is Eric Walmsley, Systems Engineer with Nutanix. Today we're going to go over the Nutanix Time Stream feature. Time Stream is a feature that allows you to schedule automated snapshots of a virtual machine or a group of virtual machines. These snapshots are stored locally on the cluster that you schedule them on. Also, this would be the cluster that the virtual machine or virtual machines are running on. TimeStream is not a replacement for backups, replication, or disaster recovery plan. TimeStream is more meant for the ability to recover from very quick errors or to recover files that may have just recently been deleted without having to go to your backup solution or to fail over to a recovery site. To set up TimeStream, when you're inside of Prism Element, click the Home button on the top, go to Data Protection. Once you are on the Data Protection screen, you have two views available to you. The first one is the Overview. It just gives you good information about how many protection domains, what kind of replication, what's the status of everything, and recent tasks. We obviously don't have much going on, so the screen is fairly boring. We're going to be playing around in the Table view. I did already set up a single test protection domain for us. We're going to play around with the restore function of TimeStream. I wanted to make sure we had enough time with some snapshots already in it. I did mention the term protection domain. We're going to create one here in a moment. Before I do that, I want to explain what a protection domain is. Protection domains are a unique Nutanix concept, and they're actually very simple. All a protection domain is a group of virtual machines, or even a single virtual machine, that you want to have the same snapshot schedules, retention policies, and if you're configuring replication, to have the same replication settings. Because we're doing TimeStream, we are not going to be configuring replication today. We'll leave that for a different video. Protection domains do have a couple of limitations. The first is you should not have more than 200 virtual machines in a single protection domain. And the more important one is to make sure across clusters, your protection domain names are unique. If you were to ever do any replication or to use Prism Central and you had protection domains with the same names, you may have issues. So we do require that the protection domains have unique names across clusters. Let's go ahead and create our first protection domain. On the top right, hit the Create Protection Domain button and select Asynchronous DR. Give your protection domain a name on this screen. Again, remember this name needs to be unique across your clusters. Click the Create button. The next step is to select what virtual machines you want to protect in this protection domain. This screen is broken up into two halves. The left half of the screen you'll see is labeled Unprotected Entities, and on the right side it's Protected Entities. There is nothing on the right side, so we need to go through the process of selecting our VMs and moving them to the Protected Entities state. Our test application has multiple tiers. The first tier is the App tier. This box up here does allow you to filter by virtual machine name. We'll go ahead and filter by the name app so we can find our app VMs. And quite simply, just hit the Protect Selected Entities button. The VMs are moved over to the right side, and you'll see a success message up on the top stating that those VMs have actually successfully been protected. I'll show you in a moment, but these VMs have actually been protected even with a snapshot. The system has taken snapshots of those VMs at that point in time that you hit the Protect button. Let's go ahead and add a couple more tiers. So we also have a caching tier and a database tier. First, let's add the cache tier. Let's pretend the caching tier in this application is extremely important. So we have a couple other settings that you'll notice I skipped over. The first is consistency group. A consistency group is a concept inside of a protection domain that quite simply any VM that's a part of the same consistency group is just crash consistent. So if these two VMs need to be crash consistent together, we can select the option to create a new CG give it a name, and click the Protect Selected Entities button again. The VMs are moved over to the right side, and let's take a look at something that looks a little funky here. First is you'll see the names of the VMs, and then these icons here. It's letting you know that these are crash consistent because they're in the same consistency group. If you also look at the next column labeled CG, which stands for consistency group, you'll notice they are a part of the same consistency group. The first two VMs that we added, the application VMs, if we look at them, the VM name is also the consistency group name. This is the default behavior for when you add VMs to the protected entities section. Let's add our last tier, which is our database tier. We want this to be in its own consistency group as well, but we're going to do something different. This would be to use application consistent snapshots. In the Windows world, this is VSS. Application consistent snapshots just QS the file system before the snapshot is actually taken. When you do use application consistent snapshots, you can only have a single virtual machine inside of a consistency group. So we do have one VM selected, we've given the consistency group a name, and we are using application consistent snapshots. Let's click the Protect Selected Entities button again. The VM is also moved over to the right side with the rest of our application. You'll notice that the VM is listed here. It's got its own CG, and it also has another icon, and when we hover over it, it's letting you know that this consistency group is using application consistent snapshots. Once all your VMs have been added to the protection domain, we'll go to the next screen, which is where we'll create the schedules. You can have 0 to many schedules, although most will have 1 or 2. You do not have to have a schedule, although it's definitely highly recommended because it's an automated way to take snapshots of your virtual machines. When you select New Schedule, we have the ability to configure how often a snapshot is taken and our retention policies. Starting in AOS 5.5, Nutanix has the ability to go down to as low as a 1-minute RPO, although if you go below a 60-minute RPO, there is more overhead on the system, so you will have to take that into account. I'd recommend you read the documentation before going below a 1-hour RPO so that you know what the requirements are and the trade-offs and benefits of doing that. For this example, we're just going to say we want to take a snapshot every 4 hours. This would give us a very good level of protection. On the right side, we'll say what our retention policy is. If we keep the last 10 snapshots, that'll give us 40 hours of protection. Hit Create Schedule. You can hit New Schedule again if you want to have another snapshot schedule with a different retention policy. For example, if you wanted to do a snapshot every day, or a certain time, a day of the week, or a certain day of the month. So say we want to do it on the first of each month, and we wanted to keep 12 of those, so we have a full year of snapshots, we can do that. So create your schedules and hit close. Once your protection domain is created with all your virtual machines and schedules, you'll see it on this screen. If you click on your protection domain, you can go through additional information about it. Because we're doing time stream today, we're not doing any replication, so you will see no replication information. If we go to entities, these are all of our virtual machines and their associated consistency groups that are inside this protection domain. We can view the schedules, and we can play with the local snapshots. Again, because we're not doing replication, there are no remote snapshots, and metrics won't give us anything because that contains metrics for replication. The alerts and events tabs will show you the associated alerts and events, if there are any, for this protection domain. So let's pretend that just a moment ago we did a upgrade to one of our application servers and it ended up crashing and we need to restore that virtual machine very quickly. You would come in here to your protection domain, go to Local Snapshots, select which snapshot you want. At the moment there is only one. Select the Restore button. In this new window, it'll show us all of our virtual machines, and we'll select the one that crashed. We'll pretend that it's app01, and since it's totally bricked, we want to overwrite the existing virtual machine. Hit the OK button, and will be a warning screen that'll let us know that this virtual machine is going to be totally overwritten with that snapshot. So if you overwrite the wrong VM or a VM that hasn't been backed up, you will lose all the data from the last snapshot to now. So please be careful with this feature. Because this is just a test application, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. That virtual machine is going to be restored. Let's also pretend that we had a request to go ahead and restore the database VM from a snapshot as well, but we don't want to overwrite the existing one because it's still functioning. They're just having maybe some application issues, and they're trying to troubleshoot it, and they want to look and see what happened from the VM back at a certain point in time. If you hit the restore button again, check the box for SQL01. Let's say we want to create a new entity. This will actually create an entire new virtual machine for you. You just give it a prefix name, and then it will also put the existing entity name after this prefix. So we can call it like test or restore, or if it's for a specific person, we can put Bob's name there, and hit the OK button. Now if we go to our virtual machine screen and go to the table view, there's two new virtual machines. The first one is app01, which actually overwrote our existing app01. You'll notice that it is powered off. We can go ahead and power it on. This other one, Bob SQL, we can do what we want with it. So for example, we could remove the network adapter, we could put it on a different network, we could turn it on and allow Bob to do his testing to figure out what's going on with our application. That's how you do virtual machine level restores using TimeStream. If we go back to our protection domains, we did have this other test one. I wanted to show you what it looks like when you have multiple snapshots. So this test protection domain has been running for some time. If we look at the schedule for it, you'll see that it is configured to have a snapshot taken every hour, and its retention policy is 5. So we have all of our snapshots here. If we wanted to restore the virtual machines from a specific snapshot, again, just like the other process I just showed you, you would hit the restore button, select the virtual machine that you wanted to restore, and then go on with your other settings. There is one more option available for you that I haven't shown you. If we go back to our application protection domain, let's pretend that the application team is going to do maintenance on the application here very shortly, and they're not really sure how safe the process is going to be during this maintenance window. You can actually manually take a snapshot of all the virtual machines inside this protection domain. You just hit take snapshot. It'll ask us where do we want to replicate it to, and if we have a specific retention time. Because we're not going to replicate, we go ahead and leave that as is. There are no remote sites. For retention time, we can say, this application team is very active. They're going to test it as soon as the maintenance is done. We'll go ahead and let's just play it safe. We'll say it's going to have a 2-day retention policy. Do note that the default is no expiration. So if you were to do this and never come back in here, you'll have a snapshot of the system, these systems in this protection domain for the life of this protection domain, which could potentially take up a lot of space. Again, we'll change this to 2 days, and we'll go ahead and hit save. And then the snapshot will be taken for us. That's it for TimeStream. You do have the ability to also do file level restores, although I'm going to make a separate video for that process. Thank you.